Our talk is the great work of your life. Wow, what a topic, huh? God the good, fully present in our lives, calls us often out of our comfort zone and into this mystical, magical, and sometimes very spooky place where we get to bring something of ourselves, something that is deeply rooted in us, into manifestation. And it can be easy when we understand that that is our purpose, our dharma, is uncovering the sacred work that we are, the sacred work that we have to offer and to give to others. Our gifts, our talents, however our contributions are made to the world, that inevitably is the source of making this world a better place. So we are each born, we come into this world with this incredible divine spark. And if you don't believe it, just watch a newborn baby. Their struggle to be present, to come through the womb, to be birthed, to take that first breath. That is a miracle in and of itself. And in that very moment, even that child leaving the mother's womb, entering into the world, has a divine spark within them that they are so innocently present to, that they spend those early years of their lives taking in and giving as much as they can to life. And giving as much love. Just let a baby come into a room full of people, adults, and it's the only child, and it's Googling and smiling. It captivates the entire room. That is that divine essence that is innocently embraced, that is innocently expressed and given as an offering to us all. So we are born with this divine spark. It never leaves us. It's always there. But we have an opportunity as we go deeper and deeper into discovering the truth of who we are. We have the opportunity to tap that divine spark, to tap into that energy, that fire, that impulse that then affects our own relationship with ourselves and the world around us by implanting these ideas in our heads that we can do something incredible and magnificent. We can write songs, we can do paintings, we can create movements that change the world. We can walk around the world. But in that moment, sometimes we have to go through some changes to uncover that, because we are brought up in cultures around the world that have very fixed ideas about who we should be and how we should be in the world. Very strict ideas about conformity. And that could be obvious, as in perhaps cultures that are a little more strict about how we can express ourselves. But it's also less obvious, but as present in countries where we are shunned for stepping too far out there on the limb, going too far outside of the box, coloring outside of the lines. But we each are uniquely poised to express our special gifts, talents, and strengths that only we can do. So it is the call of life itself expressing itself in us in new and fresh ways. You know, I think about the COVID-19 pandemic that we're all in the midst of. And I think back on just how we're moving through it. What I hear people say, what I know the practices that we embrace in our own home. And I had this poem that came to me this morning, or maybe it's more like a meditation. COVID-19, shaken, uprooted, vulnerable. But now is the time to author a new story. The old one is slipping away. Love, the motivator, is waking us up to discover the creative force within. Divine wisdom expressing as our creative consciousness God speaking, deepening our journey within as we connect with the divine substance that was in us all along, to resurrect ourselves into the light, to be reborn, to renew, to reimagine, and courageously and relentlessly grasp this second chance to create a better world from the inside out. And that is what we're talking about today. The greatest work of our lives is affecting the world through all the love that we have inside, through all of our understanding of the truth of who we are, that God is everything and expressed in everything, in nature, in our relationships, in every aspect of our being. And so as that love is forming and churning and shifting and sifting everything within, it is our opportunity now to pour that back out in a way that it will shift the sands of time. That perhaps the COVID, while it is so fearful and has caused so much tragedy, it's changing our world, but there's also a good that is even coming from that. And that good is that it is causing us to center down into ourselves, to center down into this moment in time. And it gives us the opportunity to ask ourselves, how has life changed? I am becoming more aware of my family, what people in my family think, what my children are thinking, how we feel about one another. We're uncovering things that were going on that we hadn't really addressed in our lives, that were causing these splits and these secret things that were creating disharmony. But COVID-19 is forcing us to be with, not only with ourselves, but with our immediate family, and extending our circles out through the internet and through social media, that we can reach others. I was on a call just a few days ago, and my son Michael and I, Michael shares some work that we've done in a project called Beyond the Global Divide. And we were being interviewed about what we see coming forward. And my son Michael made a really impactful statement. He's a father of 3, he has a beautiful wife and family. And he was saying that he worked so many hours, but during this time, he has come into a greater realization that his family, the people closest to and around him, are so important. And he realized that we often put them off to take care of our job, to take care of things outside of our family, when in truth the most important thing is our family. And of course, as a mother, hearing her son say that, I felt very touched and very inspired by what he said. Because that is the truth. When we access the great works of who we are, when we access that divine pulse that is constantly pushing us forward, there's so many ways that triggers things inside of us. When we're in our zone of incompetence, for example, doing those things that we're not really good at, but it just becomes the way we live in life, the way we do life. And we're kind of never satisfied, and we always have this angst about us. So we move, there's another space that we could be in, and that's the zone of competence. In other words, we're doing activities that we're competent at, but then so are half the people around us, maybe more. So there's nothing really unique in that, but it's a great way to get along. Then we enter this zone of excellence, and we like this zone. We love this zone of excellence because we are among the mighty few who can do and pull off this particular work, this particular activity, or express and be in this extremely beautiful flow. So we feel good. We can make a living at it. We can make money, we can get notoriety. This is a very seductive place to be. And sometimes we get there and get stuck. But then there's this zone of genius. And that means that we engage in a set of activities that we are uniquely suited for, that nobody else in the world can do what we can do in that zone. It liberates and expresses our divine genius. Now, that is a place that can be very uncomfortable. I'll give you an example. I often talk about walking around the world, but the thing is, when we stepped into that, when I had the dream to walk around the world and not just talk about peace, but find out how peace was showing up in communities all around the world, how it was being expressed, how people were living into that notion. And that impulse was so strong that I decided to do it. And not only did I decide to do it, I decided to see how many more people would come with me. So in that space, the one thing that I heard mostly from others was that we were absolutely insane. We were crazy for taking on that. But we did it, and that's that zone of genius. Now, you don't have to walk around the world to engage in that zone of genius. I have a young friend who is having some physical challenges that have had a tremendous toll on her physical body. But her mind and her spirit and her creativity is amazing. So her zone of creativity that she has tapped into and is taking to all levels of expression is music. Her poems, her music, her writings. Genius. But some might call it crazy. Maybe you need to be doing something else. Maybe you need to be focusing that energy somewhere else. But she knows that her creative genius, her divine genius, is calling that up at this time. And I have noticed among many of our friends and associates, not only here but all over the world, that's what's being called up, that divine genius right now. It's sort of the answer to some of the issues and concerns that members in our communities have been expressing. What's happening? What are we doing with our environment? How are we making that environment sick by the consciousness we hold about it, that it's there to serve us, and we can just take, and not be mindful of the long-term impact. People have been concerned about social issues. How can we continue to, especially here in our country, to imprison people at such an extraordinary rate that is over 700 times more than other countries? How can we live that way when we're treating the human family that way? How can we have borders that are housing children in facilities, and some look like cages, and call ourselves human? So how did we get into all of this? And now all of a sudden with this pandemic, the questions have become triggers that are igniting divine genius, so that people are coming up with all kinds of ways of expressing and being in this moment to create a shift in consciousness that is helping us to come to a place of understanding that the world needs to change. There are things in our worlds, the way we are, the way we've been. This is an incredible opportunity for us to shift into our divine genius, to think about how can we make it better. Not how we can go back to the way things were before the pandemic, but how can we learn the lessons of the pandemic and go forward in a more loving and embracing way that does build a world that works for all. That is a challenge. That is a major challenge, but the answer is in us when we have the courage to tap into that divine genius that we are. As I was thinking about this talk, I thought about, I love quotes, and I call some of the people I quote my friends. You know, they're sort of my friends that I like to tap into from time to time, to just catch a glimpse of something they said that ignites something in me. Now, Gay Hendricks had this quote: "Life is fullest when we are most true to ourselves." Do you know that people who are most true to themselves, who are living in that space of whatever it is they're here to be, that divine spark, that unique calling that is theirs, do you know they're often just in this world and just so incredibly grateful for the life that they live and the expressions, the things that come out of them? It doesn't mean life is perfect. It means that they are using all that is coming at them, through them, as them in life to respond to this divine spark. So this quote by Gay Hendricks, "Life is fullest when we are most true to ourselves," struck me in such a powerful way. He also said that the goal in life is not to attain some imaginary goal. It is to find and fully use our own gifts. Find and fully use our own gifts. And that brought me to Alicia Keys. I love this young artist and her melding her words and her expertise on the piano. And she says, "You've got to love what's yours." Now, in this moment, to me, everything else I said comes down to this: you've got to love what's yours. If something is calling up in you to be expressed, you've got to love it. You may not understand how to get there, but you start taking one step at a time. For her, she says, "When I first fell in love with the piano, I knew it was for me. I was dying to play." Now, I'd like to change that to "I was living to play," but I get what she's saying. I was dying to play the piano. It was in me. I found my perfect soulmate in the expression of who I am, in the uniqueness that I'm here to create when I touch the keyboard. And many of you have different things that when you touch it, it just ignites that fire within. For me, give me a cause. Give me a reason to express love. Give me a reason to just demonstrate how love can change the world, and I am on fire. Others have different ways that they're on fire. Find it, touch it, hold it. Don't let it slip away. It is so easy to be complacent with life and to fear that which is divinely yours to express. The artist Pink says that today, charting my own course isn't just necessary, but it is so much easier now and so much more fun. Today, charting my course isn't just more necessary than ever before. It is so much easier and so much more fun. We resist moving into that zone of our genius and staying in the zone where we're most complacent because we're fearful that we might have to let go of something or leave something behind. But as she says, as we step into it, and today with all the technology and different tools and the rate at which we are learning, we have so many more tools to draw upon. And we can have a really good time. We can have so much more fun. You know, it's like the saying that's kind of anonymous in some ways, that we are the ones we've been waiting for. And as my dear friend McCoy has written a song, in that song says, "We are the ones we've been waiting for, wait no more." Isn't that the calling now? We don't have to wait, because this is our moment. You know, nothing pushes us closer to our divine, unique spark than when we are all challenged by life and death. And here we are at that precipice. And so it's not about waiting for someone to come and fix our lives. It's about connecting with that divine source, that impulse, and as I said, sometimes that divine push, and doing what we're here to do, placing ourselves courageously in the midst of that great knowing. Mary Daly says, it is the creative potential in human beings that is the image of God. Isn't that powerful? With everything we talked about, when we tap into that uniqueness, that divine spark that is unique in every one of us, the image of God is there. It's not that it wasn't there before, it is there because we are consciously aware of that presence, that divine presence. Have you ever seen a scene or been in a situation or heard some music? Marvin, I know you love classical music, and I know you must have found that zone where you connect into that music and you can only just say, ah. You can only just sit in awe because you know that is the image of God expressing and reflecting back to you. Now let me tell you a unique thing about embracing that divine genius. Once we embrace that divine genius, there's often this urge that we want to take everybody with us. And sometimes we can get excited, we're reborn into this aspect of our connection to the divine. It feels so good. I want to take everybody with me. And so we start talking to people, we start trying to engage people, and they are resisting, and then we find ourselves kind of wavering, and then they're resisting, and then we're like, oh, can I do this? What can I do? Well, let me tell you something. This is a quote from the Diary of Now-Time Prophecies, a book I wrote many years ago. It says, when the window of opportunity opens for you, remember you may not be able to take everyone through. Know when it's your time, and remember, for everyone, there is a season. And the reason is we talk about this unique divine calling, this pulse, God speaking in us, that is just for us to do. There are some steps we have to take on our own. So other people can't just join in absolute excitement and sustain the journey with you, because that is not their unique calling. So once we settle into being in that divine genius space, living into that moment of connecting with the greatest truth being expressed in us, we start to, as we mature in that, we become more patient and more understanding and more aware that everybody has to walk their path. So then we shift. We're not trying to bring everybody with us. We're just trying to radiate what is happening inside us. What happens when we connect with the divine truth of who we are and we glow. As we're connecting with that, that's what we try to share. And sometimes it's not even a word. It's just being in the presence of everyone and holding and feeling that feeling of that divine uniqueness that is being expressed through us. Almost like someone would look over there and say, what is she up to? What is he up to? Because we have that divine awareness so much in our presence that it just looks like we're up to something. And you know what? We are. We're up to love. We're up to joy. We're up to the kinds of energy, knowing, and understanding that this world has been waiting for. We know that we're here living in this moment, carrying out the greatest work of our lives, making this world something that we know it can be. Not looking at it in individual pockets, but looking at it in the totality, looking at it as a human journey, adventure, if you will, where we're being able to use the unique gifts that we have to express something so godly, so innately good, so loving, that it is galvanizing more energy. It's like a spiral, and it just starts going out and going out and going out. Not because we name it and claim it and live in our ego in it, but because we are so embraced in it, we affect a change everywhere we go. And that's what I want to offer all of you today as you go forward this week. My call to action, my invitation to a call for action is to do one thing that you have known all of your life is your unique divine gift, your unique divine expression. Whether it's planting a garden, whether it's writing a song, whether it's sending a letter to somebody who really needs to hear a good word, whatever that is to you, I am inviting you to take the action. And maybe once you've done the first, you'll take the action again and again and again. Because what the world needs now is for us to show up in our genius, for us to show up in our truth, to show up no matter how nervous we might be, but showing up knowing that what we are and who we are and how we are expressing is our truth. Showing up completely, answering the call to discover, liberate, and express my divine genius, your divine genius. That's the path forward. This time that we're in, indeed, has called up many things in all of our lives. We send out love and compassion to all of those families and friends who have been affected by the virus. We hold a very special place for all of humanity right now. But we are determined to shift. I am determined to shift. So if I'm doing it, I know it's a great big we, because everybody in our house is doing it. People I'm talking to all over are doing it. I am shifting out of that zone of incompetence. If I'm forced to do something I'm not really good at now, I'm so quick to call on somebody and say, here, I need this. Can you help me? So that I can continue to feel good about the things that I'm good at. And sharing, inviting someone in that space to work with me allows a great gift, because that might very well be their divine, unique gift. So I'm shifting out of this zone of incompetence. I'm shifting out of the zone of competence where I just keep doing over and over and over again the things that I know I'm good at, never expanding or trusting or allowing myself to step into that zone of excellence. But guess what? Even in that zone of excellence, I'm making a promise to myself not to stay there and linger forever. Because it feels so good to be there. I mean, you get all the accolades. You're doing something great and wonderful. I'm going to shift back into that, or forward into the zone of genius. And so that's what I want us to focus on, those steps. Shifting out of that zone of incompetence, enjoying competence, but being willing to even go beyond that, to that zone of excellence where it feels so good. But even being willing to go beyond that into the zone of our genius, the activities that we were born to express and be in the world today, right here, right now. That's what the world needs. That's what the world needs. And so I just want us to celebrate that, to be willing to go deep with that. And I want to make sure that as we do that, we have an affirmation that can help us stay centered in that process. And so the affirmation for today, if you'll just take a deep breath with me. The affirmation for today has slipped off of my page, but here it is. Aha. See, that divine energy just pulls everything to you that you need in your moment of need. So today, I answer the call to discover, liberate, and express my divine genius. I want us to say that together. Let's just take a deep breath and let's say, today, I answer the call to discover, to liberate, and express my divine genius. Carry that with you as you go forward this week. And I look forward to seeing you next week as we continue on this journey.